Tucson celebrating a road victory here at Desert Dynamo.
Hey everyone, welcome back to In the Alley. My name is Cody. Glad you guys are back for another video. Team number 12 on the docket tonight. Team number 12, it is the Tucson Sugar Skulls. And I don't know how to describe this team. And that's something that's really tough, because at some points you wonder if this team is actually really, really good. And I've seen the potential that this team has had. And then there's times where they fall completely flat on their face. I think they're equivalent to like sports purgatory to me. And the fact of they're not good enough to win titles. But if you don't include 2024, they're not bad enough to be like the worst of the worst. And I think that's something where I think that's a place where you don't want to be. Now, there's no draft or anything in this league, but at the same time, there's nothing to gain in a sense. Like, you'll find out, their records and stuff here in a second, but they're just kind of in this weird middle ground where you hope to God they break out, or you hope to God they fall flat on their face and have to do a complete rebuild kind of thing, albeit, again, what is a rebuild in indoor football since there's no draft? So that's a different version, though. And what I mean by that, new ownership, new coaching staff, new players, along with some old players, but new players. This could be a brand new team. So what you've seen in the previous Tucson Sugar Skulls is going to be completely different than what you see in 2026 and beyond. So let's get into it and see this hopefully new and improved version of the Tucson Sugar Skulls. All right, we need to talk about the Tucson Sugar Skulls, uniquely named, but the rest of it isn't. Tucson Sugar Skulls, located in Tucson, Arizona, where they play in the Tucson Convention Center, where inside that convention center is the Tucson Arena. So at least the Sugar Skulls is unique, but that's also where the Indoor Football League National Championship is played. And if you didn't know that, well, now you do. So first time watching the video, you learn something new every day. First time an indoor football fan, there you go. Everything is not great, though, in Tucson Sugar Skulls land. You look at the records there, and we need to allude to what I kind of talked about earlier. This team is kind of middling, and I hope this team can move forward. Their head coach has that opportunity, and he is a very proven coach, very proven player as well back in the day. Rashawn Kaiser is in his first season as the head coach of the Tucson Sugar Skulls, former championship coach, not with Tucson, but previous team, different league. He's won a championship, though. He's been a great player. I cannot remember if he's won a championship as a player. I want to say yes, but I also don't want to say that and then have it not be true. So if he has, great, but I know he's won one as a coach if I'm not mistaken. 2025 record for Tucson, 6-10, 5-9 in the Western Conference, and as I said, not the best. You look at their last 5 seasons, 32-45. This team is middling, and in a league in the Indoor Football League, where with a league like the Indoor Football League, there's no draft, there's no compensation if you finish last, you don't get any cool things, you just have to regroup and go back. On the flip side, there's not really a rebuild mode. These players are on 1-year contracts, and from one year to the next is normally a completely different team. With some guys, you have veteran rules and stuff like that too. So it's just, how do you break out of this purgatory? They're not good enough as of right now to even get past the second round of the playoffs, or get to the second round of the playoffs, let alone past it. But when you see it there, you take out 2024, they're mid, man. I don't know how else to describe it. 2024 kind of sucked. 2025, 6-10, 2024, 2-14. Again, both those years didn't make the playoffs, but 2023, 9-6, losing in the first round, and 2022, 9-7, losing in the first round, and then 2021, 6-8. I don't think this team has won double-digit games their entire franchise history, and I know, I've made jokes about it. I know other people have too, until the new ownership came along, that this is pretty much just the Arizona Rattlers B team. We know Kathy Guy was the previous owner of this team, and Kevin Guy is the head coach of the Arizona Rattlers. And if you didn't know that, there's your second cool fact of the day. But, the jokes kind of write themselves at that point, where it's like you didn't want to have Tucson be better than Arizona because Arizona is supposed to win the titles and what have you. That doesn't make any sense when Tucson beat Arizona twice last season. So that's when Kathy Guy was still the owner. So you can't sit there and say for certain that Arizona's now, or Tucson was the JV squad. I know we've made the jokes. You can still make the jokes, but at the same time, Tucson's proven they can beat Arizona. They did it last year. They've beaten them before that. But for every time they've done something like that, they've also fallen completely flat on their face. Take a look last year, for instance, points per game, 40.6. That's towards the lower end of the league, man. 210 yards per game, also not that good. I mean, it was all right, but it's not the best, you know? Passing yards, 131. Well, other teams are up there towards the 150s, maybe even in the 160s and stuff like that. Tucson didn't pass the ball. They did run the ball really well, though. 78.6 yards per game, almost 79 yards rushing per game. Kind of a balanced attack, kind of a 2-for-1 almost when you consider, 140. I know I'm a little off base there. 140 passing to 70 rushing, stuff like that. So maybe not a 2-for-1 exact, but you get what I'm trying to say. Third down conversions, dreadful. 35.7%. They just could not convert on third downs. And when they got into fourth down situations, 51%. So not bad. Not bad on fourth downs. But when they got to the red zone, it was kind of a roller coaster, man. 74.7, 75%. You obviously want those numbers to be up. It's not the worst. It's trending down there. It's definitely not the best. So the offense, it's a lot left to be desired, man. Defense, roughly the same. 45.2 points allowed per game. Total offense allowed 237, almost 238 yards. They gave up 154 yards passing. Rushing yards allowed 83.9, so roughly 84. Kind of the same thing there. 2-to-1 yards in terms of passing yards allowed to rushing yards allowed. Roughly 160 to 80, give or take. They did take the ball away, though. 24 takeaways. And they did have Jameis Williams have to go from running back to cornerback for a couple of games, but, I digress. Opponent third down percentage, 47.2%. So, again, not the best. Not the worst. The defense kind of kept them in games a little bit, but for the most part, Tucson was getting blown out a little bit. They did win 6 games. They did have a couple of close ones, but the other close games that they lost, if it wasn't that, they were pretty much just getting blown out, man. Opponent fourth downs, 51.2. So again, if they weren't necessarily converting on third down and they got into that fourth down territory, the same thing, kind of a hit or miss. And then the opponent's red zone, they were just kind of letting them score, man. 80, 85.9, almost 86%. Where it helped them, though, special teams. I think special teams was good, albeit not the blocked kicks, but some teams didn't block a lot of kicks. Field goal, 62.1%, 18 of 29. That's good. They kicked almost 2 field goals per game, and they hit almost 2/3 of the field goals that they kicked, man. That's really, really good. What can you say? And some of those, like I said, they beat Arizona twice on a couple of those. So PATs, 83.1. Again, you want it over that 80%. You want it roughly 90, give or take. But for the most part, it's not going to be 100. I can't fault them for that. And again, same thing. I'll spiel it here. Field goals, you don't know what field goal, how long, punts, glorified punts, what have you. Just get it out of our territory kind of stuff. So maybe that field goal percentage could be higher. Who knows? Kickoff returns per game, 14 yards, roughly around the average. Blocked kicks, only 2. So again, like I said, not the best, not the worst, but they still were able to block 2 kicks. Top individual returners, and like I've alluded to, it's kind of not necessarily a cleaning house kind of thing, but we are bringing in some new players, trying to get some fresh blood in here, it seems, and you do have some guys that are kind of your mainstays from the last season or two, and we move on from there. We'll see how it all kind of jives together. No quarterback or running back coming back to speak of. Wide receivers include Jerome Buckner, Lorenzo Thompson, and Brian Smith. Offensive line is Q Baker. Defensive line is, and I always mispronounce it, but I think it's DeJiamon Brooks. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. It could be Diamond, but I'm going to pronounce it DeJiamon because I guess I'm white and that's how white guys pronounce it. I don't know, but that's how it looks, man. There's an apostrophe there. Linebacker, no one. And in the secondary, Ahmad Lyons, Brian Murray, I think it's Breon Murray, and Kendricks Gladney. Kicker being Kevin Macias. Representing the Tucson Sugar Skulls, your head coach, Rayshawn Kaiser. Wide receiver, Tamarian Terry. He is a new signee. And Breon Murray, as we just talked about a second ago. There you have it for last season and what we could kind of piece together from last year. But it is a new one. A new year for 2026, as we said. Let's go take a look at that roster that we have, signings and departures, schedule, questions, and everything else. All right, we need to take a look at the Tucson Sugar Skulls roster, and it is chock full of depth, but there are some things where we need to see who's starting, where, and what, and why. Starting with the quarterback. That's the very first one we'll talk about. I believe it's Javier Magalay. Again, pronunciation on point, right? I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I've never heard it pronounced. I've heard it Magali or Magalai. We'll see how it goes. But he was with Arizona last season as their backup for quite a bit. And I have never seen him throw a pass. I've seen him pop up on rosters every so often. I've never seen him throw a pass. He might have been in other leagues. I don't know. If he's good, great. I hope he is. But I have not seen his talent. And I've seen his name quite a bit. So we'll see, man. It's a little unproven. We don't know if these guys will be the quarterbacks going into camp. I don't know who's going to go when, where, and what. But for what we have right here, this is what we got to talk about. Casey Otto is also signed on from St. Andrews, 6'2", 205. Magalay is 6'2", 220. Draylon Ellis is also signed 6'1", 180 from Tennessee State. And like I said, this is just one of these things where based on just who's been in the league, who's seen schemes and practiced and stuff like that, Magalay is the guy for me. He's the guy that I think is going to start, but I honestly do not know. Foreshadowing in a couple of segments, man, but this is what's going to probably make the team go. There is talent here. We'll talk about that here in one sec, but those three guys, whoever sets himself apart from the pack, that's going to be the guy who you've got to kind of hitch your wagon to. So, running backs include Tyler King, who spent time with Jacksonville. He was signed to Quad City at one point, but never reported or anything like that. They did sign him, and then they just released him the next week or a couple of days later, if I'm not mistaken. Brandon Mackey is signed on, 5'7", 190 from Kentucky Wesleyan, and Tavian Thomas, 6'2", 250 from Utah. Thomas was with the Massachusetts Pirates a couple of seasons ago. He's a big bowling ball, man, 250 pounds. The hell out of his way, man. Mack truck barreling down on you. But I don't know how they're going to go about it at the running back position either. This is a brand new coach with Rashawn Kaiser. Like I said, he's been a head coach before. If he carries that scheme and stuff over from what he was with Omaha Beef and stuff like that in a previous or a separate league, we'll see how it goes. But even then, those rules were a little bit different compared to what the IFL's rules are at that time and stuff like that. Wide receivers, Jerome Buckner and Lorenzo Thompson are signed on for another season. Same thing with Brian Smith, who split time between Tucson and Arizona. Journey Sloan comes over from Fishers and San Diego. And finally, Tamarian Terry, who you saw earlier, from Quad City and Vegas. Wrapping it out, Demisio Ewing, who I believe was with Tucson or with someone else, I can't remember, in one of the training camps either last year or earlier this year, and Ewing got picked up. Demetrius Moore, who I believe was with Green Bay. That name sounds very familiar to me. So with Green Bay, I'm pretty sure. I cannot honestly remember, but again, that is a name that rings a bell in my head when I see it. Jatavian Tolles, same thing. I think he's been with Tucson before. I think Tolles has also been with Sioux Falls a couple of seasons ago. So there are players here in the wide receiving core that have played in the Indoor Football League, albeit not exclusively last season. As you see on the right-hand column, that is 2025 only. It's not for previous years, but I think Demetrius Moore did play with Green Bay. Jatavian Tolles was with Sioux Falls and Tucson at one point, and Demisio Ewing, I think, was in a camp either with Tucson or someone else. Rounding it out, Jaron Waters from Grambling State, 6'3", 200. You can't say that there's not size and there's not talent here. 6'3" for Thompson, 6'4" for Brian Smith, 6'3" for Terry, 6'3" for Jerron Waters. You got a lot of size. You got a lot of height. Along with that, Jerome Buckner, 5'9", 185. The dude has speed and talent. So we'll see how it all kind of pans itself out to be. But you do see there is some FBS talent from Louisiana, Florida State, Memphis, Tulane. Though, pick of the litter, man. That doesn't always equate, but that's how we have it. Offensive line, this could be a question mark as well. Q Baker is re-signed for another season. Evan Greathouse, Jerome Hamilton Jr., Jaheim Basham, Michael Todd Jr., Nashawn Jackson, and Thomas Prater round it out. And again, I think Thomas Prater was a name, could be mistaken. Thomas Prater, I believe, was a name that was in a camp or maybe he was part of a team a couple seasons ago. I can't remember. Name kind of rings a bell, but at this point in time, all these names ring a bell because I'm constantly updating rosters. So I could be misremembering, but I swear to God, I remember Prater being somewhere. Could be wrong. But again, kind of the same thing here. Size. 6'6" for Michael Todd, 6'5" for Hamilton Jr., 6'4" for Q Baker. All of these guys 300 roughly plus. Hamilton Jr. 290, but feed him a couple cheeseburgers and he's up there, man. So roughly all the same size. There is some height there. 6'3" with Jackson, 6'3" with Prater. So size doesn't always equal talent, as I've said in previous previews. But just looking at it on paper, two guys from California, Pennsylvania. Howard, Nelson, you do have some D2, some FCS, what have you. Can it equate? Can you? And it all depends. Like on the offensive scheme, do you have to block just enough until the quarterback can take off, or what the running game is? Or are you going to be pass blocking more often? We just don't know at this point. And even if you try and take what was from Omaha with Rashawn Kaiser, it could be completely different because of the teams that you have to play in the Western Conference. So, grain of salt, man. It's a huge question mark. Defensive line time. DeJaimin Brooks re-signed for another season from Tucson last year. Rafiq Abdul-Wahid coming over from the Green Bay Blizzard. And then Aaron Ortiz, Deshaun Holt, Harold Brooks, Isaac Anderson, and Shai Gaskin, rounds it all out. What we have here too, only one guy over 300 pounds. That is Brooks. All these other guys looks like they might have some speed. And what I mean by that is they're not that big, so if they can rush the edges, 6'3", 230 for Gaskin, can he get around the edge? We'll see. Aaron Ortiz, kind of that same way. Rafiq Abdul-Wahid, he was really good with Green Bay a couple of seasons ago. He earned all indoor honors, if I'm not mistaken, or pretty close to it. I think he either earned all rookie team or maybe second team. I can't honestly remember, but I think he's also earned player of the weeks and stuff like that too, so not a slouch. Truth be told, though, if Brooks and Abdul-Wahid are two guys, who's going to be that third guy? And then who's going to kind of be your depth pieces, stuff like that? You see Deshaun Holt right there, 6'5". If he's going to be a big guy that can get his hands up there and bat down passes, that's really good too. Linebackers, Michael Edwards and Octavius Brothers. I believe Michael Edwards was with Tulsa at one point, either in camp or maybe last year. I know he wasn't with them last year in terms of like playing, but I know he got signed by Tulsa at one point, because I was trying to figure out what college he went to, and I couldn't find it until eventually I was able to find Michael Edwards of East Carolina. Octavius Brothers is signed as well, and someone's got to replace Trinalius Tatum. Linebacker's been kind of a revolving door, and it's not just exclusive to Tucson. Linebacker's a very hard position, man. You got to cover from sideline to sideline, drop into coverage, blitz the quarterback. You've got to read where the running back's going to go. It's a very tough position, especially in this league. So whoever wins it, whether it's Brothers or Edwards, is a very tough job. We'll see how it goes. But I'm excited to see who wins that battle, because Tucson has had decent linebackers, all things considered. Taking a look at the secondary here, Amon Lyons, Breon Murray, Kendrick Gladney are all re-signed for another season. Coming over as well, Aaron Jackson from the Fishers Freight. He's earned all indoor honors. Khalil Smith from Northwest Missouri State. Edwin Summerer Jr., 6 foot 180 from Alcorn State. Jalen Jordan and Lacavius Daniel rounded out. Lacavius Daniel was with Green Bay for a couple of games a few seasons ago, and then he was with Arizona at one point as well. He might have played a game or two before eventually getting released. He's kind of bounced around a little bit. He's here with Tucson for right now. But for all intents and purposes, if you have the three guys that are re-signed for this year, Aaron Jackson as well, who's going to be your depth piece? Is it going to be Daniel? Is it going to be Smith, Jordan, Summerer? We don't know, but this could be one of the strengths that Tucson actually has, is if you can actually have the defensive line show out and the secondary be worth its salt, because Amon Lyons and Breon Murray, really good pieces. Aaron Jackson, very, very good piece, and Kendrick Gladney is a nice complement to that too. This defense could actually be very, very, very good. So we'll see how it kind of rounds itself out, but I actually do kind of like the makeup of what Tucson has on defense. Kicker is Kevin Macias. Very good kicker, all things considered, and if it wasn't for players like Gabriel Rui and Kyle Kaplan, Macias is right up in that tier, man. He's right up there with them. I would put him maybe just a smidge below those guys, but Rui's still here. Kaplan isn't. Lacayo's right up there too. Kevin Macias is right there. I mean, you've got a good crop of veteran kickers in this league. Macias fits that bill 100%. Injury call-up and other list. Cortez Eatman is suspended. He is in a different league. Refusing to report Alfonso Graham, Drew Dixon, Caleb Lundy, and Ryan Nixon. And on the physically unable to perform list, Naimonta Decour. And there you have it. There's your 2026 roster for the Tucson Sugar Skulls before it gets dwindled down to the 25-man roster to start the season. So we'll see how it goes. But we need to go talk about our signings and departures, schedule, questions, and the rest of it. All right, we need to talk key signings, key departures for the Tucson Sugar Skulls, and offensively, it's Tamarian Terry. Mainly because he is the guy on offense as of right now who has the best stats from last season to this season. And with just 37 catches, 604 yards, and 14 receiving touchdowns, he already has almost 400 more yards, or 350, give or take, or 320, whatever, than Jerome Buckner, and 330 plus whatever than Journey Sloan. And that's not a knock on those guys or anything like that. It just shows you how big of a target he is and how good of a player he is, because before this he was with Jacksonville and Duke City, so he's already been with 4 teams in this league, which is crazy to think about. When you consider the rushing game, Tyler King, it's kind of bounced around a little bit, but not doing too much last year. And then obviously Tavian Thomas didn't play a snap in the Indoor Football League. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be, so you at least have one solid guy, one go-to guy right here. It's Tamarian Terry. So for all intents and purposes, I do like what Terry brings to the table. He should be that guy that you can throw it deep and he goes up and gets it. But we also know that on this roster that Journey Sloan and Jerome Buckner are there to help out. And we'll figure out who the running game and the running backs are going to be, or running back, and then we figure out who the quarterback or quarterbacks are going to be. We know that Tucson has had kind of a revolving door at quarterback in the last couple of seasons, and when they finally found their stable guy, he up and left, just like the Avatar, till he comes back to fight the Fire Nation. You get that reference, people? There we go. You see that quarterback down below. We'll talk about Reyna in a second. Defense, Aaron Jackson, and we talked about him with Fishers, and I know when I talked about him with Fishers, I said, well, he might not be nearly that big of a loss than we think for Fishers. I think this is a huge gain when it comes to Tucson, as I mentioned in the roster portion. I think he really solidifies this secondary. Second team all Indoor Football League 2 years ago when he was with Duke City. 45.5 total tackles last year, 1.5 for a loss, 4 picks, 10 pass breakups, and 1 either as a pick 6 or return touchdown. I think it's a pick 6. He solidifies it. Brian Murray, Kendrick Gladney, and Ahmad Lyons are all kind of tackle machines, but based on what the defense was last year, they all kind of had to be. They were getting scored on quite a bit, and sometimes it was some boat races, man, where teams are putting up 30, 40 plus points on them. So they were tackle machines, but hopefully at this point this year, while the tackles might go down, you hope that the takeaways, which Tucson had plenty of, but you hope that there's more pass breakups, which, again, Tucson had plenty of, but you hope that there's more. You hope there's more interceptions. You hope there's more touchdowns. You hope there's more forced fumbles and fumble recoveries and stuff like that. But, for all intents and purposes, man, Aaron Jackson added to that secondary should be a good thing. Now, whether or not he stays, again, rosters are fluid. We do not know who's going to be cut and dwindled down for 25, who can get signed on from other teams, what have you. But I do like the addition of Aaron Jackson here. Some veteran leadership to it. Key departures for the Tucson Sugar Skulls, Jorge Reyna. Now, not the best, certainly not the worst. 177 of 300, 1,980 passing yards, 37 passing touchdowns, 13 interceptions. You wish that number was just a little bit lower, but 13, still less than some guys we've talked about. So there's that. He did rush the ball pretty well, all things considered. 96 rushing attempts, 456 rushing yards, and 7 rushing touchdowns. And like I said, it's been kind of a revolving door at quarterback for Tucson in the last couple of years, whether it's been players like, Malik Mitchell, Jorge Reyna. I don't think they had Larry Harrington play quarterback, but he's thrown a couple passes. They take your pick on who they've had in the last couple of seasons. I'm trying to remember. It's not Aeneas Dennis, but they got someone else, I think, from Massachusetts that I can't remember off the top of my head here. But at the same time, I don't know, man. Who's going to be that quarterback? Who's going to be that stable person? I mean, you have a quarterback battle right now. I hope to God whoever it is at least can put up numbers comparable to Reyna, better than Reyna, because, like I said, he led him to 6 wins, or maybe not himself, but the team 6 wins. And I don't know. It's hard to think about this knowing what Tucson's gone through in the last couple of years, going, please don't go through another quarterback carousel. Please don't go through all of this stuff, man. And we'll see. Going to the defensive side, Trinalius Tatum, he is over to the Vegas Nighthawks to go help out their linebacking core. And it sucks, man, because 33 total tackles, 9 for a loss, 2 sacks, 3 pass breakups, and 1 forced fumble. We'll see what happens at the linebacker spot, man. I don't know. I certainly do not know. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this defense shakes out. That could be their lone question mark. The special team should be all right. The defensive line should be all right. The secondary should be fine. What do you do with the linebackers? Simple as that. And Tatum going over to Vegas to just go help the Death Star that is over there in hopes of repeating, it really bites you in the ass a little bit because you get to play him. You have to play against him. So staying within the Western Conference, you have to go and play against him, which, again, for all intents and purposes, kind of sucks. But what can you do, man? You'll have to figure out how to, or whoever plugs in that gap, stay there. Because like I said, I think last year they had Joshua Clark, they've had Jaquez Jackson, they've had a couple of other guys who've been, like I said, for all intents and purposes, pretty good at the linebacker spot. And we'll go from there, man. Like, it's been kind of plug and play a little bit for him there too at that position. But losing Reyna, losing Tatum, it really sucks. But that's where we have it when it comes to the signings, where we have it to the departures. I think you got some really good players in Terry and Jackson, though. I don't know if it's necessarily offset, but we'll see how it goes. Let's go take a look at that schedule. We got some questions. Wrap up and get out of here. All right, schedule time. Not a bad schedule. 2 Friday games, both on the road. And it's just your collection of Saturdays and Sundays. For the most part, you will have some short weeks. For the most part, you'll have quite a couple of long weeks. And you start the season off with back-to-back bye weeks, which sucks, but you lose 2 of your 4 bye weeks before you start the season. Home opener, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time against the defending national champs. Yeah, that's right. You start the season at home against the Vegas Nighthawks, March 29th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So, good way to open the season. You get to open it at home, and you also get to play Vegas. So we'll see how that goes. Remember when I alluded to Trinalius Tatum playing his former team? Yeah, got him. Short week. You go April 4th, 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Play New Mexico. Now, you're going to play New Mexico 3 times this season, and this should be a fun battle between these 2 teams, as we'll see, man. This is an opportunity for New Mexico to kind of, dare I say, flex their muscle, and vice versa for Tucson as well. If you can sweep New Mexico, you've already got 3 wins on the season, which, again, they're an expansion team. I expect a little bit out of them. I don't expect too much. But if you were able to take care of business, as most people think you should, there you go. A week after that, April 11th, you are back home and about to have back-to-back home games, but 10 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff against the San Diego Strike Force before having a little bit of a longer week. Sunday, April 19th, you play New Mexico again, so the second time in roughly 3 weeks. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on the 19th. There you have it, your second matchup already. And then you go back to San Diego. I don't like how the schedule gets set up like that, but what can I say? I don't control it. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on the 26th of April. You take on San Diego. So away, home, home, away, those 2 teams. You also play San Diego 3 times this year. You've already taken care of New Mexico and San Diego twice. You've only played 5 games. Short week, you go to May 2nd, home against the San Antonio Gunslingers, 9 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff against them. And then you have a little bit of a longer week before you renew that Kevin Guy Bowl, which can't call it anymore because Kathy Guy doesn't own the team, but still in my heart. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff, May 10th, you are at the Arizona Rattlers as you renew that rivalry, where they're looking to get revenge on you, man. You beat them twice last year, so we'll see how that one goes. Really intrigued with it. Short week, you go to the 15th of May. It's a Friday night kickoff, 8 p.m. Eastern time on the road. So back-to-back road games, and 3 of the last 4 within this little portion of the schedule. You are at the Quad City Steamwheelers before having a bye week, and then you are back home for 2 games. The 30th of May, 8 p.m. Eastern time kickoff, you are taking on the Orlando Pirates. I almost said the team in red and black. The Orlando Pirates. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, well, go look up your AFL history. After that, back home to finish out that 3-game series against the New Mexico Chupacabras, 4 p.m. Eastern time, kickoff on the 7th of June. Short week, you are on the road to close out your home-and-home series against the Vegas Nighthawks, 10 p.m. Eastern time kickoff on the 13th of June. A week after that, your second of 3 matchups with Arizona. So not only do you play San Diego 3 times, you play Arizona 3 times and New Mexico. So your second series game, 10 p.m. Eastern time kickoff, June 20th. This time you're back home against the Rattlers. After that, you have a little bit of a long week, 4 p.m. Eastern time kickoff on the 28th of June. You are taking on the Northern Arizona Wranglers, which very, very late into the season that you are taking them on all the way to June 28th. So just a couple weeks left in the season, and that is the first meeting that you have with the team that's still in your state. So there you go. You have a bye week, and then you have the Arizona Rattlers on the road to close out that 3-game stretch. 9 p.m. Eastern time kickoff against the Rattlers on the 11th of July. A little bit of a longer week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time kickoff on the 19th of July, and you take on the Northern Arizona Wranglers for the final time. So you play them twice in the final 4 weeks, and that's the only time you play them. So it's kind of crazy how it goes that late into the season, and then suddenly you're just done. But that's how the season ends, man. Final game, though, you round out that final 3-game series, 10 p.m. Eastern time kickoff at San Diego. Friday night game for them. That's the final Friday game of the season for San Diego or for Tucson. We'll see how it goes, man. That is not necessarily the worst schedule. There's definitely some winnable games there. You know, you do play Arizona 3 times. You do play San Diego 3 times. And if for all intents and purposes, those could all be considered losses. You get Vegas twice. You got to win some of these games. We don't know what San Antonio is going to look like, and it's a shame you only play them once. It's the reason I've bitched and moaned about this in previous previews is because I think you need to play everyone in your conference twice. Simple as that. But you play New Mexico 3 times. You play San Antonio once. You could easily switch one of those, or you switch out a San Diego game or an Arizona game, what have you. I think it's insane that you only play that once, you know. But there you have it. It is kind of brutal down the stretch. 3 of your final 4 games are on the road, with only the Sunday home game at 7:30 against Northern Arizona. You got to be road warriors, especially if you're going to try and make the playoffs, man, because you kind of have a couple of home games there to start the season, which you round it out on the road. And we'll see, man, because some of those teams could be vying for playoff spots, especially Arizona and San Diego. So it's a doable schedule. It's going to be very tough. You've got to get your wins when you can get them. I know that sounds easier said than done, don't get me wrong, but you can't slip up, man. And we've seen Tucson do that too many times. And I really wish they don't do that. I really don't, because this team deserves the playoffs again. This team deserves a chance to prove themselves and at least make it to the Western Conference Championships, man. So we'll see how it goes, but there you have it. There's your Tucson Sugar Skulls schedule. We got some questions we need to talk about, and then we get on out of here. All right, we have 3 questions to talk about when it pertains to the Tucson Sugar Skulls. If this is your first time watching the video, welcome in. Hope this is a team you want to root for, or if you're just checking them all out to figure out who you want to root for, great. Or if you're just hate watching, welcome in. 3 open-ended questions. You can answer them in the comments if you want. If you don't want to, that's fine too. But until then, I'm going to ask these because these are questions I've thought between the end of the season and the start of the season as transactions and stuff have gone on and the coaches have been fired and hired. So here we go. Question number 1. Who is quarterback number 1? I don't know. I mean, simple answer, I do not know. Like I told you in the roster segment, I think Magalai, however it's pronounced, I think he probably has the inside track. Otto has an opportunity to do that too. And then we obviously have our third stringer coming right back in there as well. So I don't really know when it comes to who it's going to be, whether it is going to be Magalite, Otto, or even if it's going to be Ellis at the third string. And I'm only putting Ellis at third string is because I'm just going down the list of the names as I see them right there. So I don't know. And that's such a cop-out answer, and I wish I had a better one. I truly do, but I'm not inside the huddles. I'm not inside the meetings. I'm not in the coach's office or anything like that. I would go based, obviously, on talent. I've done that with all the other previews of who I think is going to start. I got to keep it kind of consistent here with this. Now, the wild card would be if someone else comes along that they sign in the next couple of weeks, and that person ends up going, hey, I'm the ringer. Here we go. And that's going to be your starter. And I don't think that's going to happen. I truly don't. You can't say it's not going to happen. It's not that it's never occurred before, because it has. But at the same time, if we're just hitching our wagon to these three guys, my money's on Magalay, just because he's been with Arizona. And just because he's been in the system, he's been around a little bit. I've seen his name pop up a couple of times, even when like his agency or something that I follow on X has been like, hey, here's this guy. Go sign him. I don't know. That's the only thing I can base it on. I don't know who's going to be quarterback number one, and that's what makes this team so intriguing. I don't know. And whoever it is, they could be a guy that lights it up. It could be a guy that falls flat on their face. And I don't like that. I don't like saying that, but at the same time, we've seen this team play quarterback roulette before. It sucks, but it's happened. I don't want it to be that way. I truly don't, but I truly do not know who's going to start. We'll see who takes the snap under center when they have their home opener against Vegas. Simple as that. Question number 2. Does a championship coach mean championship team? For all intents and purposes, yes, because the championship coach is probably coaching the championship team, but that's not in this case. You would hope so. The previous coaches that Tucson has had haven't been bad. In fact, they've had coach of the years, if I'm not mistaken. It's just the talent that they've had has been kind of squandered. And whether or not you believe the Arizona JV squad kind of thing, there just does not seem to be enough resources put into this team in the last couple of seasons to promote a winning culture. And that's not a pot shot at Kathy Guy. That's not a pot shot at the coaching staff or anything like that. But when you consider what Tucson has kind of fallen on, they haven't fallen on dark times, but they've fallen into like this middling category, as I've mentioned before, where it's like they just are stuck here. They have an opportunity to potentially make the playoffs, and they just sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. They've won 9 games 2 years. 3 years, something like that. They've never won 10 games. Can this finally be a time where Rayshon Kaiser, and it might not be this year, is there finally a time where Rayshon Kaiser and company can take this team to new heights? We'll see. I don't know. And I hate saying I don't know because I'm trying to find these answers. This is the reason I ask these questions, is I hope to God I have the answers. So does a championship coach mean a championship team? I would say yes, but not this year. And I know that might hurt some Tucson fans and stuff like that because I don't want to diminish any hope. But at the same time, it might take a couple of games to build something. And a couple of games you might not have, knowing that you have to play San Diego and Arizona 3 times and Vegas twice. That's half your schedule. So you're going to learn today, man. It's a steep learning curve, and there's a reason why Tucson's kind of been in this purgatory. It's because the West is beating up on them so much, whether it's been San Diego, Vegas, Arizona, Bay Area, at the time, Rip and Peace, whoever it could be. There's just been an influx of talent and coaching and just everything, ownerships and stuff like that have come into the Western Conference and just said, hey, you've made the playoffs a couple of times. Bah, bah, bah. Not anymore. So hopefully Tucson can rise up from the ring and, Undertaker gif, and just there you have it. But we'll see. It might take some time. Question 3. Can the defense give up less points this year? The defense, man. The defense. For some games, they played really good. They won 6 games. The defense didn't win them 6 games, but Tucson won 6 games, which means the offense scored more points than the other team. Or even the defense helped out too. Some of these games, though, and I alluded to it a little bit earlier, some of the games that Tucson played, sometimes they just got absolutely boat raced, man. There were a couple of games that were roughly one possession, but I think I counted their 6 wins, if you take those out, and then there were 3 games, if I'm not mistaken, they lost by 1 possession. So in 7 games, they lost by double digits. Now, you can go fact check me on that, but that was just a quick thing that I did to look at. So I think out of the 7 out of their 16 games, they lost by double digits. 7 out of their 10 losses. Excuse me. That's not good. That's not even single-digit losses. I think they might have lost a game by 9, which is still 2 possessions. Well, not in the indoor football league with a deuce and 2-point conversion, blah, 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 yada, yada. Yeah, I get it. But you know what I mean. Traditional scoring, 8 points, 1 possession, blah, blah, blah. So that being said, there were just games that they might have come back and made the game look closer. You'd have to go back and watch those games. I don't know off the top of my head. Is it going to be up to the defense? My answer to this is, can they put up less points this year? Yes. Simple answer, yes. And I think, like I said, in that roster, in the key departures, and everything, I like what this defense has. I think the defensive line can be very serviceable. Can you get to the quarterback? That's a huge question. We've asked it on other teams and other previews. That defensive secondary looks really, really good. Can that linebacking core come into their own? We will see. I like the defense more than I like the offense, which is insane because that wide receiving core of that offense has a lot of talent. That running back room has 2 guys that have played in the indoor football league. That offensive line has a question mark for me. That quarterback position has a question mark for me. So can the defense keep this team in games enough that the offense can score enough points? They might have to eke out some games. There might be some games that they have no business winning, but a Kevin Macias walk-off field goal that he's done plenty of times before sends them over the top. It remains to be seen, man. But I do think that the defense can, score or give up less points. Simple as that. It might take a game or 2. But I think as people get acclimated, as players get acclimated to Rashawn Kaiser's schemes, which obviously you have the training camps to do that already, but as you have that go through and the chemistry and the camaraderie and everything in that locker room starts to build, yes, there's going to be roster turnover. Yes, there's going to be injuries. But at the same time, if you can keep that continuity as much as you can and the message is clear and that culture is clear, there's an opportunity for Tucson to do something that they potentially have not done in a long time. And that is make the playoffs. I mean a long time. I mean a couple of years. And for some people, that is a long time. So I like that opportunity. There's, in my opinion, I think Tucson has as good a shot as ever. And with Northern Arizona, New Mexico, and San Antonio all right there, probably vying for that final playoff spot, Tucson has a chance too. I think they have an opportunity. We'll see how it goes. But that's where we have it for our 3 questions. Who's QB1? Does a championship coach mean a championship team? And can the defense give up less points this year? Let's go wrap up and get out of here. And that is it for our preview for the Tucson Sugar Skulls. A team that just is in flux, it seems. But this season is an opportunity, man. And I've said it with Northern Arizona. I've said it with San Antonio. I've said it with New Mexico. We've done all those previews. I think there's 4 teams right now battling for one final playoff spot. I have not made those intentions unknown at this point. Tucson has an opportunity to take that spot. I think it comes up with obviously beating New Mexico and sweeping them, and beating Northern Arizona and beating San Antonio and winning those games that you absolutely have to win. And you also have to pull some upsets. We've seen, they've proven that they can beat Arizona. They've proven that they can beat these teams. Can they do it consistently? Can they keep it consistent? Can you finally get that monkey back off your back? I'm not even asking this team to win 10 games. I'm asking this team to make the playoffs. And that could be a 7-9 record. We've seen teams make the playoffs at 7-9. We've seen teams make the playoffs at 8-8. We'll see how it goes. We've seen teams make the playoffs at 9-7. So you're not asking for a lot here. Just win the games that are in front of you. Pull an upset or 2. Chances are you'll probably be in the playoffs. And I understand this might be a tougher schedule than some of the other teams. We don't know yet. And I'll still do my previews and stuff like that for the playoffs and predictions after we do all the team previews. But I like where Tucson is set up right now. It is going to be a bloodbath in that Western Conference, especially between those 4 teams when New Mexico, Northern Arizona, Tucson, and San Antonio all play each other. You might not think of it as much, but I'm going to think of that as who's getting that final playoff spot. And when they play each other in that quadrant, that little quadrant, it's going to be, hey, this is a huge game, even if some people might not think so. So I know fans, coaches, players, owners, whoever's watching these videos be like, don't you degrade my team. We're going to win the championship. It's fine. You can have that hope. That's okay. I try and keep it realistic as much as I can. I don't see those teams necessarily winning a title. Prove me wrong. Simple as that. But for the most part, man, I think Tucson has that opportunity. I do like San Antonio. It could be a 2-team race. I know I said that in the San Antonio preview there. I don't think it's just a 2-team race. As of right now, my brain kind of has it right there, because Northern Arizona and New Mexico just have not proven themselves yet, but they could shock people too. So that's where we have it with that. I'm going to call it for Tucson right there. We have 2 previews left to do. Up next, the Tulsa Oilers. Man, the Tulsa Oilers, they are in for it, man. They've got a good season ahead of them. We'll see how it goes tomorrow night when we preview them. And then finally, the Vegas Nighthawks, the defending national champs. 2 left to do, man, but I'm going to call it there. I do love and appreciate every single one of you guys for taking the time to watch these videos. Truly means a lot to me as I'm, churning these out as quickly as I can every single night. I try to get them out by 10 p.m., but sometimes that's just not feasible. So thank you guys for having the patience to tune in or churn in, whatever, when you can. It does truly mean a lot. But for the most part, we've just got a couple more to go. We've got the predictions and the playoffs and all of that stuff that I do as well. And then before you know it, we're right into week 1, which is just crazy to think about, because we're going to have Quad City and Fishers kick it off. I believe it's on Yahoo. You go from there. But until then, I will catch you guys in that Tulsa preview tomorrow night. Catch you all in that one. Until then, have a good night. Have a good morning whenever you watch this. I'll see you then. See you.